pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello and welcome. I am Samia Mohammed and this is Post of Africa News, coming to you live from Addis Ababa, the political heart of Africa. Let's start with Medemer philosophy drives Ethiopia and Africa forward. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has presented Ethiopia's homegrown Medemer philosophy as a practical model for national renewal and a blueprint for Africa's broader transformation during the 39th African Union Summit. Addressing heads of state, diplomats and international partners, the Prime Minister emphasized that sustainable prosperity must go beyond macroeconomic growth to deliver tangible improvements in citizens' daily lives. According to Abiy, development must encompass expanded school feeding programs, improved healthcare access, strengthened social equity, and inclusive economic growth. Medemer is far more than an abstract concept. It is a practical strategy designed to drive collective growth, he said, framing the philosophy as a governance framework anchored in unity, synergy, and shared progress. Originally coined and developed by the Prime Minister, Medemer, meaning synergy, is designed to guide Ethiopia beyond a historical of ethnic polarization toward national cohesion and shared prosperity. Its principles are articulated across 4 books: Medemer, Medemer Journey, Medemer Generation, and Medemer State, which collectively outline a roadmap for building a self-reliant, culturally grounded, and institutionally reformed Ethiopian state.
Under Digital Ethiopia 2030, we're building digital public infrastructure that places citizens at the center of service delivery. By linking FIDA, our national digital ID, with payment systems and the massive data exchange, we enable secure access to services, seamless transactions, and responsible data sharing, fostering trust and driving our economy forward. In 2020, Ethiopia established Africa's first artificial intelligence institute. Building on this foundation, we are preparing to launch an AI university anchored in the Ethiopian philosophy of Medemer, synergy through purposeful collaboration. This institution will unite human values with machine intelligence, local context with global relevance, and scientific rigor with applied impact. It will ensure technology drives growth and position Africa as a global contributor in the age of intelligence.
Highlighting technological advancement, Abiy pointed to Ethiopia's rapid digital transformation. The country established Africa's first artificial intelligence institute in 2020 and is preparing to launch a dedicated AI university rooted in Medemer principles of purposeful collaboration. Under the Digital Ethiopia 2030 initiative, national ID systems are being integrated with digital payment platforms to modernize public service, expand financial inclusion, and enhance transparency.
Here in Ethiopia, we have learned that responsible water management is central to guiding development wisely. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam now powers homes and industry, exports electricity to neighboring countries, and shows how African ingenuity can drive shared prosperity. Across Africa, rivers can become engines of stability when governed for shared benefit. On our land, targeted policy and innovation have enabled wheat self-sufficiency, and large-scale industrial investments are moving us from dependency to production.
Energy self-reliance is central to Ethiopia's vision, with the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam currently generating over 5,000 megawatts of electricity, symbolizing national unity and driving regional energy integration. Infrastructure improvements, including the Addis Ababa-Djibouti Railway, have reduced freight transit times from 7 days to under 12 hours, while industrial parks in Hawassa, Bolelemi and Kombolcha expand Ethiopia's manufacturing capacity. The government projects economic growth of 10.2% this year, positioning the country as an emerging trade and energy exporter. Environmental restoration reflects Medemer's principles in practice. The Green Legacy Initiative has overseen the planting of over 48 billion trees nationwide, while riverside redevelopment projects in Addis Ababa are transforming degraded waterways into climate-resilient public spaces. Urban expansion plans include Bishoftu International Airport, projected to become Africa's largest by 2030, capable of handling up to 110 million passengers annually, reinforcing Ethiopia's ambition as a continental aviation hub.
As we approach the African Union Silver Jubilee, the moment marks a transition from foundational unity to functional sovereignty. Sovereignty means owning our narrative. Through initiatives like Pulse of Africa, we amplify African voices because development is never complete without our story. Africa can contribute stability, scale, and solutions to a changing world. But we must do more than respond to crisis. We must shape agendas, turning vision into action and leading with purpose.
In tourism, programs such as Dine for Nation and investment in Halala Kella Resort, Wanchi Ecotourism and Gorgora Lodges and Chabara Jutura National Park are enhancing connectivity and visitor experiences, including the Tananesh 2 ferry service on Lake Tana. Framing Medemer as a bridge between Ethiopia's historical legacy and future ambition, Prime Minister Abiy underscored that the philosophy integrates institutional reform, technological innovation, environmental stewardship and inclusive growth into a unified national strategy. He added that Medemer offers a pathway toward unity and shared prosperity, not only for Ethiopia but also as a guiding framework for Africa's collective development. By emphasizing collective progress, Medemer is shaping Ethiopia's path as a both national and continental exemplar, the Prime Minister said. The United Kingdom's ambassador to Ethiopia and permanent representative to the African Union, Darren Welch, has commended Ethiopia's efforts in promoting peace and security across the Horn of Africa. Ambassador Darren Welch said that he understood Ethiopia's desire to secure sea access in order to support its rapid economic growth and burgeoning population. Speaking in an inclusive interview with Post Africa, Ambassador Welch, he emphasized that relations between the UK and Ethiopia are growing stronger. Just weeks earlier, the UK Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, Yvette Cooper, made her first official visit to Africa, choosing Ethiopia as her destination. During her visit, she held discussions with the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and the two sides signed several agreements aimed at deepening cooperation. According to Ambassador Welch, these developments reflect the strengthening of bilateral ties. The ambassador highlighted Ethiopia's vast investment potential and expressed the UK's interest in expanding trade and investment opportunities.
The government, as I say, has embarked upon a very impressive set of macroeconomic reforms which have put the economy on a much more solid footing and provided a stronger investment climate. And we see that investors are more interested in the country as a result of that. The population is growing, the economy is growing, so this is a very, has the potential at least to be a very attractive investment environment. Are we taking full advantage of it? Probably not enough yet. And I'm very pleased to say that the United Kingdom's trade envoy is visiting Ethiopia next week, and we'll be having meetings about how we can do more.
He praised Ethiopia's significant contribution to regional peace and security, citing its role in Somalia as a clear demonstration of its steadfast commitment to stability in the Horn of Africa.
And I want to pay tribute to the Ethiopian contribution to the AU's mission in Somalia. We know that thousands of Ethiopians have served there. Too many of them have lost their lives, and it's cost the government both in lives and in money. So we really recognise that and pay tribute to that. It's a great example of how this country can be a force for peace and stability in its region.
Ambassador Welch further noted that the Horn of Africa holds immense potential for development, stressing that peace as a prerequisite for harnessing this opportunity. With its large population and growing economy, Ethiopia is well positioned to play a vital role in the region's progress.
As you say, it's a complex region, and its potential is enormous. It's so strategically placed, but there's too much conflict and too much potential conflict. And the United Kingdom wants to see this region at peace with itself and flourishing. As you say, Ethiopia has an outsized, a very important role to play on those issues.
Ethiopia, with the largest population and the strongest economy in the Horn of Africa, remains the world's largest landlocked nation. Recognizing the strategic importance of the sea access for its continued growth, both the government and the Ethiopian people are actively working to secure sea access that will support the country's expanding population and fast-paced economic development. On Ethiopia's quest for sea access, Ambassador Welch reiterated his awareness of the issue and encouraged a peaceful resolution.
I come from a country which has 51 major ports and more than 120 other ports. So I approach this issue with some humility. And the United Kingdom, of course, is a major seafaring, trading nation with deep roots in its seafaring and naval traditions. So we understand the desire to be connected to the world for trade. I can understand why a country of Ethiopia's size and growing economy would want to diversify its access to commercial ports. But we would always argue that any differences, any tensions are negotiated peacefully.
The United Kingdom's ambassador to Ethiopia and permanent representative to the African Union, Darren Welch, also outlined the UK's evolving policy toward Africa, explaining that Britain seeks to move beyond the traditional donor-recipient framework and instead foster partnership based on investment and trade. Jeffrey Sachs, professor at Columbia University and president of the UN Sustainable Development Solution Network, urged African nations to pursue bold continental unification to avoid fragmentation and exploitation in a multipolar world. The Institute of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia hosted Professor Jeffrey Sachs for a high-level lecture on the theme of realizing African development potential in a multipolar world. In an address on Africa's future, renowned economist Professor Jeffrey Sachs urged the continent to emulate the unified economic models, emphasizing that a fragmented approach among its 55 member states would lead to exploitation by global powers. He painted a vision of Africa as the potential center of the world economic by the end of the century, but only through bold continental scale strategies and massive investments.
Unified, integrated structure, continental scale economy with a continental scale policy and plan. That's what it will take. If you have to do this 55 times, it won't work. So Africa, first and foremost, needs to think at a continental scale.
Jeffrey Sachs expressed optimism about Africa's ongoing economic integration efforts, particularly praising the African Continental Free Trade Area as a genuine and increasingly viable initiative, though he noted its implementation is progressing too slowly. He called for accelerated operationalization of the AfCFTA and endorsed the long-term goal of establishing a single African Union currency, describing it as both feasible and essential for building a true continental economy within the next 10 to 20 years. Sachs outlined a development blueprint centered on 3 core investment pillars: education, infrastructure, and sustained capital flows. He emphasized Africa's substantial demographic dividend driven by a median population age of 19 and roughly half the continent's residents currently of school age. Realizing this potential, he argued, requires ensuring that every child completes at least upper secondary education with meaningful successful learning outcomes. On infrastructure, he advocated for a comprehensive continent-wide strategy covering power generation, transportation networks, digital connectivity, housing, water and sanitation system. Sachs highlighted Africa's vast renewable energy potential, pointing out that solar installation across a relatively small portion of the Saharan desert could generate enough electricity to meet global demand.
The second major investment is physical infrastructure. And of course, that entails the power sector, the transport sector, the digital sector, social housing, water and sanitation. The key infrastructure. There needs to be an Africa-wide strategy that reaches down to every part of the continent. The power sector should tap your wind, solar, hydro, geothermal.
If these steps are followed, Jeffrey Sachs predicts that Africa's share of the global economy could rise from about 5% today to around 1/3 by the year 2100, making it the center of the world economy.
If you do this and you project forward, Africa becomes, by the end of this century at least, roughly 1/3 of the world economy. That's good. Today it's 5% of the world economy. It can be around 1/3 of the world economy by the end of this century. And you look at a map, that's the center of the world. And that's a good thing. And that's what we should aim for. And that will mean for Africa a unified strategy, investment, 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 and strategic partnerships with all who want to be strategic partners with Africa.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Post Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
Ethiopian Airlines' 80-year journey as a cornerstone of African integration, trade and connectivity. Speaking to Pulse of Africa, Group CEO Mesfint Assof said, Ethiopian Airlines has been more than a carrier. It has been a bridge linking African nations, people and economies. Our mission has always been to serve Africa first while connecting the continent to the world, Dasso said. Since its founding shortly before the creation of the Organization of African Unity, Ethiopian Airlines has played a historic role in enabling African unity and progress. The airline has facilitated trade, diplomacy and regional collaboration, becoming a trusted partner of the African Union and other continental institutions.
Ethiopian Airlines has always been a partner of African Union, and we have been working together. In fact, this year we are going to celebrate our 18th year anniversary since the airline was established, and we will have a lot of celebration for that, and we will honor the support and the partnership of Ethiopian Airlines with our partners, including African Union.
Celebrating its 80th anniversary this year, the airline continues to set a standard for African excellence, honoring the partnership and communities that have supported its journey. Recent financial results further underscore its resilience. Ethiopian Airlines generated $4.4 billion in revenue in the first half of the fiscal year, marking a 14% increase compared to the same period last year.
Ethiopian Airlines has performed very well during the first 6 months of the current fiscal year. We grew consistent with our plan. In terms of revenue, we generated $4.4 billion during the first 6 months, and that is 14% growth compared to last year, same period last year, and it is at the same level per our plan. And we will continue with this growth plan during the second half of the year. So it is not a plan of growth for 1 year, but we are growing in line with our Vision 2035.
It also emphasized that this long-term vision aligns with the airline's ongoing strategy to advance Africa's connectivity, economic integration, and global competitiveness. Ethiopian Airlines' Pan-African strategy is further strengthened through the key regional partnership. Its primary strategic partner in West Africa, Accra Airlines, based in Lomé, Togo, serves as a hub for connecting the region. Other important collaborations include Malawi Airlines, Zambia Airways, and Air Congo, forming a multi-hub network that ensures seamless connectivity across the continent. This integrated strategy allows Ethiopian Airlines to reach far beyond its Addis Ababa hub, bringing Africa closer together. Over 8 decades, Ethiopian Airlines has grown into Africa's largest and most modern carrier, modernizing its fleet, training thousands of aviation professionals, and investing in infrastructure across the continent. Speaking on Africa's development priorities, Gagolom, head of statistics division at the African Union Institute for Statistics, said Ethiopia offers a model for other nations, describing the country as a strong Pan-African hub that unites the continent and makes all Africans feel at home. He highlighted Ethiopia's large-scale infrastructure drive, particularly the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, as an example of the bold, transformative projects Africa should pursue rather than small initiatives. Such mega projects, he said, demonstrate the scale of ambition needed to accelerate growth and integration across the continent. Gagolom noted that Ethiopia is not keeping the benefits to itself, as electricity from the dam is already supplying neighboring countries, strengthening regional cooperation and shared prosperity. He added that visionary leadership and collective commitment are key to advancing similar projects across Africa, urging nations to embrace large, continent-wide solutions for sustainable development.
The Ethiopia case is a schoolmate case that people need to learn from these countries. First, Ethiopia is a Pan-African country, which brings all the Africans together. When we are here, we feel in our continent, we feel in our country. There is no difference. Ethiopia is the capital of Africa. And then the mega project that currently bring by Ethiopia, that one we wanted to see in the continent. Most of the mega project in the continent in Africa, like the dam, for example. We don't need to do small things. We need to go to big things. And now, by having this mega project for the continent, now Ethiopia is not keeping it for himself. This electricity now has access to Djibouti, to Sudan, to Kenya, to others. Everyone that wanted, he will access. He benefit from where? He benefit from the good willing of the Ethiopian people. And this because there is a one person of taking leadership. We need to move with it. And this leadership now is paying, and Africa is applauding. We are all applauding these things behind it.
Ethiopia is also driving major investment across energy, industry, transport, and manufacturing to promote national growth and regional integration. The Addis Ababa-Djibouti Railway enhances trade and logistics access to ports, while the planned Bishoftu International Airport is set to become one of Africa's largest aviation hubs. Other flagship projects include a nuclear power plant for peaceful energy generation, expanded oil and gas infrastructure, and the Gode fertilizer plant, a $2.5 billion facility aimed at boosting agricultural self-sufficiency and heavy industry. Together with new industrial parks, roads, and renewable energy projects, these initiatives underscore Ethiopia's commitment to bold, transformative mega projects that will drive long-term developments across the continent. President John Dramani Mahama has called for urgent and coordinated African action in response to what he described as profound shifts in the global order. Speaking at the Accra Reset at this reckoning event, he warned that fractured supply chains, cautious finance, and rapidly advancing technology are reshaping international power dynamics. These are structural changes, he stressed, and Africa must respond with clarity, unity, and execution. The president traced the evolution of the Accra Reset initiative from the Health Sovereignty Summit in Accra to discussions at the United Nations General Assembly and Davos. He noted that the Addis Ababa meeting marks the transition from dialogue to implementation. He described Accra Reset as a practical framework aligning finance, health, trade, skills, and technology into one strategic direction.
Accra Reset is an architecture, a framework through which Africa and its partners align finance, health, trade, skills, and technology into a single direction of travel. Our global digital skills passport will ensure that the qualifications of young Africans are recognized across platforms and across the world. There's a quiet truth we rarely say aloud. For years, Africa's leaders have been asked to choose between ambition and realism.
A key proposal is a global digital skills passport to ensure African qualifications are recognized across borders and platforms, unlocking global opportunities for young people. Rejecting what he called the false choice between ambition and realism, President Mahama declared that Africa's frustration have turned into determination.
Accra Reset rejects that false choice. Ambition only becomes realistic when institutions align, when partners listen, and execution becomes a shared responsibility. We've reflected enough in our meetings over the years, and it's time to commit. It's time to interlock our sovereign prosperity spheres. It is time to transform. This is the Addis reckoning.
It is time to commit, it's time to align our institutions and partners, it's time to transform, he said. This is the Addis reckoning. Let's take a look at the weather forecast across Africa. That's for the hour. Thank you for tuning in and goodbye.
Few days ago, UK Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, Yvette Cooper, paid an official visit to Ethiopia. During her stay, she engaged in substantive discussion with Ethiopia's Prime Minister, Dr. Abiy Ahmed. The visit culminated in a series of agreements between the two countries, Ethiopia and UK. What does this diplomatic engagement reveals about the enduring relationship between the two countries, Ethiopia and UK? Today, I'm joined by UK's Ambassador to Ethiopia, Darren Wiltsch. Do stay with us. Ambassador Darren Wiltsch, big welcome to our studio.
Thank you so much. It's very kind of you to have me here and a great pleasure to be talking with you today.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I know that you are conducting this interview in your busiest schedule, and I appreciate your collaboration indeed.
You're more than welcome.
Thanks. Like I said in the beginning, UK Secretary of State for Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Affairs, Yvette Cooper, visited Ethiopia recently, and a series of agreements, a number of agreements were concluded during her visit. Could you share us the nature of those agreements and the significance of those agreements in reflecting the enduring cooperation between UK and Ethiopia? Let's begin with this, Mr. Ambassador.
So you're absolutely right. The United Kingdom and Ethiopia have got a very long-standing and enduring friendship and partnership. So we had our first diplomatic mission here more than 200 years ago. We've had a permanent formal diplomatic relationship for more than 120 years. So this is a long-standing friendship between our two countries. And I was really pleased that Yvette Cooper decided to make her first visit to the African continent here to Addis Ababa, and she was graciously received by His Excellency the Prime Minister and a range of other ministers as well. And this follows on from a visit that the UK's Deputy Prime Minister made last year to Ethiopia, and we have our Minister for Africa is here this week as well. So the traffic between London and Addis is constant, and I think that's a sign of the positive relationship that we have. While she was here, the Foreign Secretary signed and witnessed a number of really important agreements which strengthen that partnership and relationship between our two countries. One of those agreements was to support Ethiopia's ambitions for green energy and to build its grid infrastructure. So she witnessed an agreement of more than $400 million, which will help connect people to the electricity grid in this country. She also met with the UK investors while she was here. We've got a wide range of investors, some of the names quite well known, like Safaricom, some smaller investors, because we're very keen to support Ethiopian entrepreneurs and startups. So there's a company called Lovegrass, which is exporting your teff superfood to the world. We're helping them as well. And the Foreign Secretary met these British investors and learnt about how we are supporting about 170,000 quality jobs here in Ethiopia directly, and of course many further thousands in the supply chain. So the relationship is strong, the relationship is good, it's getting better all the time. We've got a lot of diplomatic engagement with this country, and the Foreign Secretary's visit here was a really strong sign of that commitment to partner Ethiopia as it develops and grows.
Beyond those agreements, in what area are the two countries cooperating today?
So we've got a wide range of areas of cooperation. Ethiopia remains our strongest and largest traditional development partner. Over many decades we've been supporting Ethiopia's development, and today it remains, as I say, our strongest partner. So we are supporting the great work that the Minister for Education is doing. We're supporting education systems reform. We're working in the health sector as well. But perhaps most importantly, we are supporting the economic reform program of the government's own homegrown economic reform program. And we have been a strong champion for Ethiopia's reform transformation in the international system. So I work very closely with my colleagues on the bank, the World Bank board and the board of the IMF, and we've been supporting the packages of international finance that Ethiopia needs in order to spur its development. So we've been partnering across a wide range of issues.
All right. Health, education, economy, investment, trade, and other areas of cooperation. I'll come to those areas of cooperation bit by bit in my interview. But for now, as you clearly put, the health sector, the health field is one of the areas in which the two countries are cooperating. And if we talk about the health sector, I think it's pretty much important to talk about UK's recent cooperation and support in terms of the fight against Marburg virus. And of course, the virus has now been eliminated, and I think this is a big triumph for all of us. But I want you to tell us the specific contribution and cooperation of UK in the fight against Marburg virus.
Well, first of all, huge congratulations to the Minister and Ministry of Health and the wider government and the regional government as well for the fantastic work that was done to tackle the Marburg virus. And of course we think of those who lost their lives in that tragic outbreak. But it could have been much worse. And it was the quick, effective response of the government pulling together different agencies with then support from the international community, which helped make this, bring this tragedy to a relatively quick end. As I say, it could have been worse. It's an important reminder that we share global health together. Your health is my health. So we have a very shared, strong interest in tackling global health challenges and outbreaks. It's one of the reasons why the United Kingdom is such a strong supporter of the WHO. And we put £1 million of support into the WHO, some of which then came specifically to help the government's effort to tackle the Marburg virus. We also provided about £1 million worth of support in personal protective equipment, supplies, and in testing kits, so the government could identify who did have the virus. So we provided material, but we also provided expertise. We have the UK Health Security Agency is present here in Ethiopia and collaborates with the Ethiopian health institutions, and they provided technical assistance and support as well. So the government led strongly, they did a fantastic job, and we came in behind with some expertise, some advice, and also with some really concrete practical support. As I say, your health is our health, so it's an area where we really need to continue to work together. And the United Kingdom is putting more resources into the health system here, because we know we get good value from that. The country has very strong health plans. It has a very extensive network of health provision. And I don't think there are many countries on the African continent which could have mounted such an effective response to an outbreak such as we saw here in Ethiopia. So congratulations to the government.
All right. The age-old relationship between Ethiopia and the United Kingdom has evolved over time, and as we see the policy documents, media exchange and diplomatic engagement, we can see that the relationship has shifted from kind of development assistance to trade and investment. And if we talk about investment, the investment potential of this country can never be overlooked. And do you think, Mr. Ambassador, UK investors are effectively and successfully utilizing Ethiopia's vast investment opportunities?
So the potential in this country is enormous. The government, as I say, has embarked upon a very impressive set of macroeconomic reforms which have put the economy on a much more solid footing and provided a stronger investment climate. And we see that investors are more interested in the country as a result of that. The population is growing, the economy is growing, so this is a very, has the potential at least to be a very attractive investment environment. The City of London is mobilising £4 to £5 trillion worth of overseas investment, and at the moment maybe only 1 or 2% of that comes to Africa, so 40 to 45 billion pounds, and only a small percentage of that comes to Ethiopia. So the potential to expand this is enormous. And in fact, the United Kingdom's trade with Ethiopia was up 20% over the last year. So you're absolutely right, the potential is there on both sides. Are we taking full advantage of it? Probably not enough yet, and I'm very pleased to say that the United Kingdom's trade envoy is visiting Ethiopia next week, and we'll be having meetings about how we can do more.
Thank you for sharing us your valuable insight into Ethio-UK relations, in particular in the spheres of development, trade and investment. And now let us talk a little bit about regional issues. The Horn of Africa, a very dynamic region located in the northeastern part of the continent, and apparently Ethiopia represents the largest population in the region, in the Horn of Africa, and the strongest economy in the region. And Ethiopia is also contributing for ensuring peace and stability in the Horn of Africa. And of course, Ethiopia has been sending, for example, troops and peacekeeping forces to different countries such as Somalia, Sudan, and other parts of the continent. And Ethiopia's contribution for peace and stability of the region is huge, is immense. And how UK government is collaborating and cooperating with Ethiopia in terms of ensuring peace and stability in the Horn of Africa, because this region of Africa is very much vital for the whole world, including United Kingdom. So how your government is cooperating with Ethiopia in terms of ensuring peace and stability in the Horn of Africa?
So you're absolutely right. This is a very important part of the world, and we've got deep historic ties with this region, and we care about it deeply. We are friends with the countries in this region. We've been long supporters of stability in Somalia. We recently announced $20 million of support for the AU peacekeeping mission in Somalia. And I want to pay tribute to the Ethiopian contribution to the AU mission in Somalia. We know that thousands of Ethiopians have served there. Too many of them have lost their lives, and it's cost the government both in lives and in money. So we really recognise that and pay tribute to that. It's a great example of how this country can be a force for peace and stability in its region. As you say, it's a complex region, and its potential is enormous. It's so strategically placed, but there's too much conflict and too much potential conflict. And the United Kingdom wants to see this region at peace with itself and flourishing. As you say, Ethiopia has an outsized, a very important role to play on those issues. We're very worried about Sudan at the moment. The Foreign Secretary raised that when she was here earlier this month, and she will be bringing the issue of Sudan to the UN Security Council this month. The United Kingdom is chairing the Security Council. And she will be arguing that the world needs to focus more attention on Sudan, and that we all have a role to play in helping end that terrible crisis and conflict. And that means stopping weapons flows, stopping support to the belligerents. And we would call on everybody to do what they can to take the heat out of that, to not put more fuel on the flames which are already burning far too brightly in Sudan, and to do everything they can to help bring peace to that country. And when we get peace there, that then has a spillover effect for the whole region. And I think Ethiopia has a really important role to play, as we said, big population, big economy, a government which has or sees itself as having an important role to play in the region, and we would support that. And as I say, we commend what they've already done in Somalia. Let's see more peace building across this region.
As an ambassador who closely watch recent development and current affairs in Ethiopia and the wider region of the Horn of Africa, I do hope though that you are well aware of Ethiopia's quest, Ethiopia's desire for sea access, and drawing from international experience, how Ethiopia should secure sea access in terms of regional cooperation frameworks.
So look, I come from a country which has 51 major ports and more than 120 other ports. So I approach this issue with some humility. And the United Kingdom, of course, is a major seafaring, trading nation with deep roots in its seafaring and naval traditions. So we understand the desire to be connected to the world for trade. But we think that, as we've just said, the last thing this region needs is more tensions and more conflict. So we would call on, and have called on, parties to try to de-escalate, take the heat out of some of this dialogue. And as the Prime Minister and government have said, to seek peaceful dialogue and negotiations as a way to achieving objectives. I can understand why a country of Ethiopia's size and growing economy would want to diversify its access to commercial ports. And in fact, the United Kingdom is supporting work at the port of Berbera and are supporting a transit transport agreement to make sure that goods can flow more readily between that port and Ethiopia. So we understand the desire. We come from a deep tradition of seafaring and global trade, but we would always argue that any differences, any tensions are negotiated peacefully. On this point, I should mention the World Trade Organization. Ethiopia is keen to accede to the World Trade Organization. The United Kingdom is chairing the Working Party, which is overseeing that process. And we're really optimistic and hopeful and supporting Ethiopian efforts to become a member of the WTO as soon as that's possible to get through the technical work which is needed.
Mr. Ambassador, as far as I'm concerned, the issue of sea access for Ethiopia is deeply critical because, as you know, Ethiopia stands as the largest landlocked country in the world. And as we know, Ethiopia's contribution for peace and security of the region is irreplaceable, I would say. And by any measure, Ethiopia's success in securing sea access will contribute significantly to its economy, significantly to its contribution for peace and security of the Horn of Africa and the wider continent. And on the contrary, failure to achieve this goal will pose significant constraint on its economy, and it will limit and restrict its contribution for peace and security of the region and of the continent. So how do you think Ethiopia's neighbors should support Ethiopia's quest for sea access through kind of regional cooperation frameworks?
Let me address your first point around trade. The reality is, in Africa, there's far more that can be done on internal trade. So at the moment, about 16% of Africa's trade is with other African countries. And for Ethiopia, there's probably a bit less than that, more like 14%. So the potential to grow intra-African trade on the continent is huge. So growth isn't only dependent on those non-African markets. There's a huge amount to be extracted from greater regional integration, the point you make. And Ethiopia is really well placed for that. I mean, the work that Ethiopian Airlines does, the investment in the new airport, its strategic location, there's huge potential to grow that trade with other African countries. On the issue of particularly sea access and the regional integration, I mean, we support regional integration. As I say, the potential for that intra-African trade is huge. We want to see more regional integration to build and grow those African markets through peaceful means, dialogue and negotiation.
Finally, Ambassador, you are also serving as UK's permanent representative to the African Union, and I can see that you are also engaging with the African Union. How United Kingdom is cooperating and collaborating with the African Union in achieving Agenda 2063, which is Africa's blueprint to achieve sustainable socio-economic development by the year 2063.
The United Kingdom has recently adopted a new approach to Africa. And our Africa Minister is here in Ethiopia this week as well for the summit. And our new approach to Africa is based on respectful partnerships, mature partnerships of mutual benefit, of finding more ways to invest, as we spoke about earlier, and having moving beyond the old-fashioned relationships of donor and recipient of aid to more equal partnerships, which feels more modern and more appropriate for the respectful way that we want to engage with Africa. And we want to see African voice amplified and magnified on the world stage. So it's an important week. We are working with the African Union on adaptation to climate change, on that African comprehensive, the Continental Free Trade agreement to get that intra-African trade flowing. And we are working on peace and security issues as well, and we've mentioned some of those earlier. So it's a really important continent for the United Kingdom. We've got long history here. We want to use that history to build modern partnerships for a future where Africa is going to grow and be a more important partner for us. And we want to really accompany Africa on that journey of growth in a spirit of friendship. And that's what we're here to do.
Ambassador Darren Welch, UK's ambassador to Ethiopia and UK's permanent representative to the African Union, thank you so much for sharing us your perspectives and thoughts regarding Ethio-UK relation and UK's broader engagement with Africa. Thank you so much for your time and wishing you every success in your service.
Thank you. My pleasure. I hope you'll have me back sometime.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Well, that was my brief and insightful interview with UK's ambassador to Ethiopia and UK's permanent representative to the African Union. Hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. Many thanks for watching and bye for now.